So welcome everybody to today's Nature Diary session for February. We're going to be painting the Maltese wall lizard. I'm just going to share the screen and okay, let me find what I'm going to share first. Right. Okay, so that's a photo of one of the types of Maltese wall lizards that we find. So in Maltese, it's called Gramsciula tamalta. In the Latin name is Podarcis fulfolensis. It's, like I was saying before, it's endemic to Malta and a small number of islands that are close to Malta, Linosa and Lampione, and it's found nowhere else in the world. So it's a reptile, I think most of you realize. So reptiles have scales and they produce eggs to reproduce. They're cold-blooded, which means their blood temperature, the range starts from freezing point. So it can get really, really cold, but then it changes according to the temperature outside. So when they need to warm up, you've probably seen them sometimes. They sit in the sun for a bit and they sunbathe, sometimes a bit like humans do. And in Malta, they don't hibernate because the temperatures don't get so cold as they do in other countries. But some reptiles do hibernate in colder countries. Let's look at another photo if I can. Yeah. So this is probably a female one, I think. I'm not sure actually. There's lots of different types. So there's 4 types in Malta. There's the Maltensis, which is green with speckles, which is the one we saw previously. Filfolensis, which lives on the island of Filfla, the tiny island, which is blackish with blue, pale or pale blue spots. And this is the largest one. And I've got yeah, this is a map of where they exist. So you can see the tiny island of Malta here, and then those 2 small islands there. And yeah, this is the one that lives in Filfla, which is the largest one that we have. There's another one that has a very strange name called Kieselbaki, which lives on Selmonet, which are the islands near St. Paul's Bay, which has different kinds of colors between brown and gray with black spots and a yellow belly. And then there's the Generalensis, which lives on Fungus Rock, which is reddish underneath with bluish legs. So yeah, that's quite exciting that we have all of these different types. The males are more colorful than the females. And I don't know if you remember in other sessions, we talked about why males are more colorful. It's because they need to attract mates, but the females are not so colorful because animals want to protect them because they're important, because they have the babies. So they need to be better camouflaged. In the spring, males go up to females to mate, and they're very territorial of the land they claim. And I meant to have some photos of this book, but I forgot to include them. So if I stop my share, and I think the words are going to be the other way around, aren't they? But it's called Wildlife of the Maltese Islands. And some of your parents or grandparents might have this book. So if you can find it, it's amazing. Because it has lots of, the illustrators gone to great lengths to do some really good pictures, and it has a lot of good information about animals in Malta. And they said...
Tamsin, sorry to cut through you. Hi, it's Suze. Someone said in the chat they can't hear you. Maybe you just want to check that they are connected well with the audio, or...
Okay, thank you. I mean, but if everybody else is hearing me, then I'm not sure what I can do.
Yeah, they have to connect to the audio from the audio button. Maybe they can ask their parents to check, because you need to connect to the right audio source. Just
okay. I think you have to go into settings, which is I'm not sure where the settings is.
it's usually from the menu at the bottom, the most left one, which controls the audio, and then you need to
see anything that so if you click on mute,
exactly
the arrow next to mute, and then a pop-up window comes up and it says audio settings. So then I think you need to figure it out from there. So your speaker, you might have to check your speaker is on full volume, possibly. Okay. Well, hopefully they'll be able to fix it. So yeah, apparently during let me know if they can't hear me, so. And even when I was explaining about the settings, I just thought about that.
I'm sorry, we also realized that now.
Yeah, me too. Okay. So when the males are becoming territorial, I don't know if you've ever seen this happen, the males puff themselves up, they tremble, and they raise their heads to display the bright colors underneath their neck. So this is to show that they're the better male, basically. So that the females mate with them. And the females lay 1 to 2 eggs in soil or under stones, and they hatch in June, between June and mid-August. So I don't know if I remember last summer, I saw so many baby lizards running around the streets and the pavements. And I did wonder whether we should paint the lizard this month, or maybe I should have waited, but it's because we've got one living on the roof. And he popped up the other day, and I thought, we could paint the Maltese wall lizard for February, because they are around all year round. They are common, but they are losing their habitat, so the places that they live in. So we do still need to protect the countryside as much as possible for them to be able to have places to live and to get food from, and to find each other, to have more babies. But they are becoming more adaptable to urban environments, so places with buildings, but we need to give them spaces to live. So if you have a roof with lots of plants on it where they can hide, and they can just spaces for them to be safe, basically, just to stop them from going extinct. So I hope Jaden and Amy managed to sort out the audio. So let's get started. I'm going to change the spotlight. Yeah, so have a bit of a different setup, I'm afraid, today, with a different phone holder, which it isn't working amazingly well. But so basically, this is one that I painted earlier. So let's put that to one side. But because the setup has been a bit funny, with me. Oh, I need to share the photo actually. I'm going to have to do it portrait, which I didn't do it last time, but I'm sure it'll be fine. So the photos I used are this one, the first link I've sent through to draw it. And then I used this one because I liked the pattern more on that one. But I mean, if you want to do the first one, that's absolutely fine as well. And I'm just going to be able to help me to draw it. I'm just going to put my tablet on if it works. Oh God, I'm having so many technical problems today. And hopefully I still have, yes. Oh. Okay, so it's up to you whether you want to draw it this way or landscapes, because I drew it this way to be able to get the whole body in. I'm gonna have to see how it goes with this one. So, okay. Hopefully you can see. Is that everybody okay? I hope so. Okay. So I'm going to start. What we do first of all is get a rough idea of where we're going to have all the different features. So let's say that we're going to have the head about here. So I'm holding my pencil very lightly just to get an idea. And then the line of the back of this lizard, God, I can't get over how green the back is. And then I've just drawn the back very roughly. And then if we say we're going to put, and I don't know if you can see my hand, I'm using my pencil at the top to keep it rough and just doing a rough sketch. So I think the belly is roughly about that long. Should be measuring, of course, but I always say I'm going to and then don't. The way you measure is basically if you check, you can use your pencil and check how large, if you draw the head first and then you check it with a pencil like this, then check it on the source on the photo that So if you grab the photo and if the head is that long here, and then you check how many times it goes into the body, and then you can do the same on your picture. So if you say this has gone in 3 times, so this is the size of the body, the head here. So 1, 2, 3, that's roundabout right. Just so you get the scales in. Depends on.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, Karen is waiting in the lobby to come in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sometimes I don't notice. Hi, Jaden and Amy. I hope you can hear now. Yeah, sometimes I don't notice if people are joining because I'm concentrating so much. So yeah, thank you for letting me know. And so let me just use this as reference because I didn't, I kind of made up the tale a little bit. Didn't make it up, but I looked at pictures and stuff. So let's see how on earth I'm going to fit it into this paper. And hopefully you can. So, but they're very long, their tails. Okay, I think and they're very thin at the end. Then obviously get a bit thicker as they come back towards the body. So have a rough sketch. So we can start to it's a bit more detail now. I think I've lost. Yeah. We can, so if we go back to the head again, I'm basically, I mean, I say to everybody to draw shapes first, but it was a bit difficult with the lizard because, I mean, I suppose you could sort of draw a twisted oval shape, but it's basically just getting the line of the back right. And if you use your pencil very lightly, just draw the line of the back, you should be able to get it. So I'm trying to take off some of the pencil marks now because when we come to paint it, we don't want too much pencil showing. So if you look at the mouth, they have quite a big mouth. And they have it was probably called something scientific, but I feel like, well, they're straight, I suppose. But I think that's what they puff up when they're trying to protect their territory. And we'll draw the eye just roughly. So here I've drawn in a bump because that's the top of the other eye. But of course, because we're drawing it from the side, we're only going to see one eye, of course. I think the head's a bit thick. So you are going to have mistakes, of course. Hence the point of drawing with a pencil. Although there are exercises that you can do where you're not allowed to draw with a pencil, but that's, I guess it's when you're not allowed to use a rubber, I mean, which is quite a good exercise sometimes. So just trying to, when you're drawing things, it's quite good to think of things in terms of shapes and to see, to move the eye up a bit, to see what the shapes are in between things. I think I'm quite happy with that. And here, so you can make the line of the back a bit. I haven't looked up what this is called either. I think it's a, I don't want to say the word and be wrong. It's where they breathe from. It's like a hole. I'm not sure it should be so dark, and I'm wondering whether this photo is whether the colors are a bit modified. I think it should be a bit smaller, a bit further down. Just basically a little oblong shape. And so quite happy with the shape of the back. So that can stay. I'm just going to rub out the sketchiness. And try and get the outer line. Well, we'll see how it goes, but when I painted the first one, I started spraying it and stuff, and the color just, some artists do it on purpose for the paint to spread out. I mean, there's so many different techniques that you can use, especially with watercolor. But it kind of went over the edges, and then I ended up not liking it. So I gave it quite a, well, I gave it a background so that I painted over all the marks I didn't want. So I think this is called the flank, where I think in Maltese we say kosha. I don't know if you can use that for a lizard, but so they're quite round. And yeah, so that bit comes down like that. And they have the most delicate feet. They're, even when I'm watching them in real life, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but they have these really delicate little toes. but then when I was drawing them, I mean, of course, they have the claws at the end, but when you see them in real life, you don't even notice the claws, but they need the claws to latch onto things. And they, of course, that's why they're called Maltese wall lizard. They live in the rubble walls. So trying to put in these very small claws. So if you just put finish at a point, basically. This photo is quite good, really, because it manages to show them quite well because of the shadow. And then this one comes out. Bit of an awkward angle. I just realised I did this on the last one as well, but I didn't paint the other leg, draw the other leg rather. Okay, so let's so that's his elbow joint, and then his arm, which comes down into another hand. I keep using all these terms and thinking I better, what they called a herpetologist is a person that studies reptiles. They'd probably be going crazy saying that's not the right term. If you ever, I'm not liking the way this hand's coming out. I think, or maybe it's okay. Just if we make it less rounded. If you ever get the chance to watch a lizard, sit and watch it for a bit. It's always fun to watch nature anyway. But it's just interesting to watch the behavior of animals. And okay, so on the other side, it's a little bit awkward because we can only see parts of it. The top of his elbow. And then should try and get the other leg in, which is, I think I've often seen them like this, where they I sort of have one foot brought in or one leg brought in, and then the other one's fully stretched out. Like a yoga pose. And there is a pose called the lizard, actually. The thing is, so I've modified the picture slightly, which is kind of good because of copyright if we're not exactly like the photo. Because really we should acknowledge the photographers, but at least that's why I send you the links rather than the actual photo, because you know, at least we're showing that we're using the website. And but the leg's going to get a bit hidden by the tail here. Try and make sense of the toe. Sometimes it's a bit difficult when it's similar colours to the background. Because our eyes want to just assume what they can see. But I think this is why it's quite good for us to really look at what we're drawing. And to not assume that everything is as we think it is. I think it's okay. Okay. So let's get painting. So yeah, you can. Okay. Hopefully you can see the pencil lines quite well. I'm not sure that showing you my palette is going to help or not, but hey. I don't like to take the paint off because I don't like wasting it. So basically, yeah, I'm switching photos now to the second one because, like I said, I liked the pattern on the other one. And if you are using a photo, it's good to zoom in a bit. So you can either, I'm going to mix up a green. But depending, of course, if you're using acrylics or anything else, you might already have a green. But you can either use cerulean blue and cadmium yellow, or you can replace the cerulean blue with cobalt blue if you're using watercolors, that is. So where am I gonna? Yeah, I think this was the previous. And sometimes to reactivate your colors, if you're using watercolors, you can use a spray bottle with water in it. I think my green is going to have a lot of different greens in it. And it's good to really got water paint everywhere. It's good to have a piece of kitchen towel or cloth if you prefer. I just find kitchen towel not very eco-friendly, but it picks the water up a lot better. So yeah, I'm going to make quite a bit of this greeny color and make it quite watery. Because we are going to paint, too much blue. We're going to paint the whole lizard.
Miss,
Yeah.
are we going to do the other foot?
It doesn't show because it's behind the body. I mean, if you think it looks okay to put the other foot in, you can, but
Okay.
I haven't included it.
Thank you.
That's okay. I'm adding a bit of lemon yellow just to brighten it up a little bit. And you can try, if you prefer, because it's a very yellowy. I mean, I preferred the cerulean blue to the cobalt blue, but because it's not on the list. I don't know why I didn't add cerulean blue to the original list. And it's always good to test your colors on a bit of rough paper. So I'm quite happy with that. I might use, might just experiment really. Let's put a bit of ultramarine. Okay, so make it watery. It's quite nice. Well, even on the photo, it has quite a lot of different greens in it. Okay, so I'm using a biggish brush for the main part of the body, but I might switch to a smaller one for the rest. And this, the patterns quite interesting on this lizard. And we're never going to manage. My mum and I have conversations about this, trying to get the same patterns that you see in nature and the same colors. But it's so difficult. So we can paint, hopefully remember it's there. But we can imitate them. So what I try and do as much as I can is look at the photo and look at what's going on, and then think of how to replicate it. And it's just always good to have rough paper to do experiments with, basically. So I'm just going to mix some ultramarine and lemon yellow, because is slightly blue at the bottom. And then when you've already painted it, you can drop color in with watercolor. I mean, with other kinds of paints, like poster paint, sometimes you can get similar effects if you mix a lot of water in. Put a bit of more yellow. But with watercolor, you do have to be a bit careful because the more you go over, the paper starts to, they call it buckling. So far, very okay. Drop a bit of green in here. And what happens as well is the color always dries lighter than what you originally put down. I'm going to drop a bit more yellow in. But it seems like it's very interesting. Even the first time I painted, I didn't notice all the different yellows, and every time you do it, it's going to be different. Maybe a bit more yellow. So I put cadmium yellow at the top, and now I'm going to put some lemon yellow in the middle. And his tail, I found the tail really difficult to paint last time, so I'm going to try this time to I don't know. Be a bit more experimental. It's almost as if it's just this pattern maker that's made it. It's incredible. I need to go back up. It's also with watercolor. Let's go cadmium. It's good to have 3 pots of water. Because it's good to, because the color is so affected by even the slightest color change. I'm just going to turn it around a bit. What, the other leg again? So weird. Yeah, so if you keep similar colors, so at the moment, really what you should do is mix the cooler colors in 1 pot of water. So cooler colors are blues and well, blues, I guess. And then warmer colors like reds and yellows in a separate one. But at the moment, I've just mixed all the green and I keep using the same water. So, but I wouldn't use that for something different now. Because then the next color I mix is going to be too green. So I'm basically just dropping loads of colors in because it's always interesting to see what will happen. I might take a smaller brush now, and I know why I forgot it. It's because it's not in this picture. Okay, so I mean, I think the legs could be a bit browner. But let's just paint them this color for now. And yes, it's still a bit wet. Not sure whether to go for it now or okay, let's let it dry a little bit more, but I don't want it to dry too much. If we keep going to use some burnt umber, just keep that on this side. Running out of places. And I'm going to use some yellow ochre as well. Just for the feet. And you can, the yellow ochre is a bit too yellow. It's quite good to mix it in with some of the burnt umber, the brown, basically. So if you don't have burnt umber, brown is fine. Okay, so that's a bit too brown. So when you put a color down and you just think, oh no, that's too much, just take you can wipe your brush on some kitchen towel, and then it's fine. And this brush is quite good. Oops, famous last words. If you do make a mistake, you can just dab it with some water, and then you should be able to lift it up. But this brush has very good tip. So if you're using watercolors, it's really good to try and look after your brushes. Because you can, then they're quite, I guess the word is versatile, because you can use it for thicker parts and for thinner parts, because you just lift the brush up a little bit to do the thinner bits. I'm not sure if some of that's dark enough. Just add a bit of brown. And so this one, it is a bit greener. Getting some interesting colours with mixing greens and browns. I'm just making my brown a bit darker. I'm using Payne's Grey, which to darken the brown down, which I think now I've added to the colour list. It's just, I mean, it's not essential, but it's just a really useful colour to have, I find. And we do need to do the other side. Not sure if I don't really like that elbow now, but oh well. How wet is it saying? Yeah, let's just paint the other one. Okay, just gonna fix my eye a little bit. Right, so now here comes the very experimental bit. Hopefully it stayed a little bit dry, and I'm going to take some of the brown. So it's like a dark burnt umber is the name basically, but it's I don't know if I can test it a little bit before going for it. Basically what I'm trying to do, and if you find another way, you don't always have to copy what I'm doing, but this is going to be probably too wet, so this, I painted the background and then I'm dropping the brown through, because if you can, when I look at the photo, that's what it looks like to me, as if somebody's dropped watercolor and it starts to spread. So hopefully that's what's going to happen. So it's only kind of the middle part that there's these brown bits, and you can take your brush and kind of like I was holding the pencil, like hold it at the top as if you're writing with it, to just let go a bit of control. So there is, this doesn't always work sometimes. There's kind of this fine line if you are using watercolors, when to put the next lot of paint in, because sometimes it's too dry, sometimes it's too wet, and it just amalgamates into each other. And I think the first time I did this, yeah, I was a bit too impatient. It does teach you patience, actually. It's a bit dry at the back, but I think it's still okay. It's as if, I don't know how to describe it. Because it's not like someone's written things on it. And then at the top, you can continue with the marks, but very lightly. So, because they're not as, the lines aren't as thick. So I've moved my hand further up the brush. To make the lines less thick. And it doesn't matter if one's line is too big or I mean, it's just quite nice to experiment, really. Might put some lines. I think that looks a bit better. And it kind of has some marks on the leg. So if we okay, I had a feeling, sort of got a bit lost in this. So we're at the 4 o'clock mark already. Hopefully everyone's okay to stay on a bit longer. I'm just not sure how to handle the tail. Because the marks, it's like some designer dress. They're kind of straight. I think might be good to drop a bit of yellow in. And as you get further to the top, I'm just dabbing them basically. And then I'm going to drop some yellow ochre into the middle. I think actually, maybe let's use cadmium yellow, yeah, just to drop a bit of colour. Into the middle of the brown. Yeah, sometimes it's just going to dry completely different. Which is fun about watercolor. I'm not sure. Let's have a look at the, might be a little bit too wet for the eye. It's gonna take a smaller brush and paint the shadow underneath. So the best color for shadow, and shadow is quite important underneath, well, anything you're painting basically, because then it means it looks like it's standing on something. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to have time to paint the rock underneath, but let's paint the shadow. The best color is burnt umber and Payne's grey mixed together, but you might, if you don't have Payne's grey again, you could try ultramarine blue, which gives a nice shadow. So I'm just going to say start at the tip here. Let's see. I feel like it's not dark enough, but maybe it is.
Miss.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to go.
Okay.
Do you mind if I show you Shazaya's picture?
Yeah, of course.
Turn the camera on 1 moment.
Let me. Okay, that went relatively smoothly. Okay, so let's put the rest of the shadow in. I think he could have been, well, I don't know if he could have been a bit fatter. Too small now. Yeah, so sorry we're running over a bit, but it does happen. Sometimes it's a bit hard to predict how long something's going to take. And then what we managed to do with the other one is, so from about here, sort of have a, and if the shadow is coming off the page for me, but that's fine.
Miss,
Yeah.
do we have to do a shadow?
You don't have to, but it's quite good to have one because it makes the animal look like it's on the ground. And
Okay.
lizards, I mean, you don't have to do anything. Well, no, okay. Yeah, sorry about the noise.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's just, so I'm sort of telling you things, I mean, that I've learned along the way. It just sort of helps to make things grounded. And then what I did on the other one with the background is I used yellow ochre to make it look like stone, because I think that shadow is probably a bit, well, I don't know, it's a bit hard to predict what shadows are, what shape they're going to take, because it depends where the sun is. So if you sort of picture that the sun's up ahead, I think it's a bit too big, really. Yeah, and the rest of the background, I'm just going to pick this up a bit, which you can do with clean water and kitchen towel. Yeah, a bit better. Yeah, the rest of the background, sorry, I keep getting distracted. I painted with yellow ochre because I just think the yellow ochre is such a close color to the Maltese stone. Okay, let's leave that there. Okay, the eye. I had a bit of trouble with the eye on the other one, but let's give it a go. I'm going to take my weeniest brush, and sometimes, so the eye on this photo isn't that great, but the eye on the other one's amazing. So let's go back. Still think I made it too small. And I'm going to use Payne's grey, but you can use black. Thing is with black, nothing is truly that black in nature, so it's quite good to have a color that's not truly black. And just trying very carefully to paint the top line, and then to leave a little bit of white as the reflection. And then I don't know why it's not quite round. I don't know if that's what their eyes look like. Or whether it's just the photo. And then it has, this might be the dodgy part, but try paint a line above and a line underneath. But if you don't manage to leave white, or you have accidents, or see, I'm not sure, I think it's okay. You can either use clear water, mine's not quite clear at the moment, to paint, to sort of take it away and put it back in again. Or if you're having problems, it's always, I mean, I feel like the eye is usually the hardest part with these things. You can always gesso is usually quite good to have, which isn't watercolor, but it's, well, maybe I'll just make it round. You can paint on top of watercolor, so it's quite handy. Ah, and I forgot it's a gill, and I can't see it, so I have to remember where it is. But I think it's kind of down here, and we also have to give him a nostril, which is tiny enough here, using the same Payne's Grey. And I'm going to paint a thin line for his mouth. And then I think the gill, it's not a gill, I think. Is there. I don't like how, yeah. Okay. I think, actually, just one more thing that you could do is, because there should be a shadow underneath. Underneath the toes. I'm just painting that in lightly. And that's kind of how you can see the claws. Put that in. Yeah, so the shadow, I mean, I don't think the shadow was quite good having it there, but anyway. Oops. Right, so I think that's finished. Right, so let me stop the recording. So I hope you all enjoyed that, and we can look at everybody's paintings now. Okay.